Peace, everyone. Third time is a charm. Do you know how hard it is to get like a 20-minute video and then have to like scrap it and do it two more times? I just want to tell you all that I love you. All. All apologies for the late entry. It's been real, but good, but real. So I am here to feed you all. This is what happens when it's like 4 in the morning. You're kind of delirious, but you're here. That's where I'm at. So I am here to feed you all about the ending phase of group. So welcome. You've all made it, right? Oh, goodness. Okay. So my group, just to give a little overview, consisted of 4 single mothers, which I don't really identify with the term, but I get it. But we were all primary parents, one child, and we were all in different places in our co-parenting experiences, whether it may have been that it was something that we had a desire for, but we weren't being met with the opportunity from the other parent. There wasn't cooperation from the other parent, or newly separated, trying to navigate what that even looks like, or separated and in the embryonic stages of developing that, and then being in a place of kind of a rhythm within that co-creation of co-parenting and what that looks like. And more so, the allure of, creating a self-care group for single parents was also because this population is usually the population that self-care is either non-existent or a complete afterthought. And this group began out of a need. I posed a question to myself as far as what was it that I needed, and was thinking of how can my group reflect what I need as well as what I want to give to others. So the breathing room emerged, and the group is called the Breathing Room. And it's actually 3 women that I know personally. So the ending phase usually marks a time within group work that is the most difficult and the most delicate. So it's finally like this baby that you've been feeding and loving up on and nurturing and filling up with all of, your magic and goodness is now ready to leave the nest, stand on its own to be in the world, have its experiences. And with that, you want to make sure that you're providing proper strongholds, means of support, but also encouraging their independence to be able to transition and use those tools that they've gathered in their new experiences in the world. So, and it's interesting that, as it being a really important time, delicate time, it's usually that time of group work that is avoided because endings are never easy, right? Good things come to an end. You either don't show up because you don't want to deal with it, or you begin to be absent because you're like, oh, it's the end. They're not going to be doing much. And you don't realize how necessary it is to have closure. So for us, it was interesting because figuring that we had personal relationships outside of the group, there wasn't the anxiety of completely sealing off because I knew that I was going to probably talk to one of them later that evening or see another one the next weekend or text with the other one like a couple of days later. So there wasn't that anxiety, but there was a need to make it clear that this was happening for this amount of time. And so that this was happening at this amount of time. So there was still, that guidepost still had to be there. So because of time and scheduling, I had to figure out a creative way to make sure that it almost felt like it was an 8-week experience. So it was introduced at first to do Zoom chats and Skype as an option, to kind of blend our ways of communicating. And I also offered it up that, I basically created a group chat because I felt like that would provide everyone with the most flexibility to be able to contribute, no matter whether they had a particular app, a particular phone, or were tech savvy. I just wanted everyone to feel comfortable and approach this group experience with a certain level of ease. So I found it easy for me to facilitate through voice memos, because a lot of times I was waking up at 4 or 5 in the morning, had an idea, or woke up with something, and typing just wasn't an option because it was dark, and I just was like, okay, I'm just going to go and talk. So that I found out that that was a great way for me to be able to facilitate. Um, uh, I did talk a little bit in the beginning about um, how long our group was going to be going on for, but I didn't really focus on the like move towards ending. And I also understood that there had to be some sort of ritual that guided us into our ending. And at first, I didn't know exactly what that was going to be. And it ended up being several things. One that was co created with one of the members, like from a member's suggestion. So, uh, yeah. And, in the text, I definitely understand like how termination can bring up feelings of grief, feelings of loss, because you have this thing that you have been receiving so much support and guidance from, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, this is, we're approaching the last 3 weeks of this, and you have to kind of get people ready, and the anxiety that comes up. But again, like I said, because of our prior connections with one another, we didn't have to deal with that. But there was still some sort of anxiety of how to bring it all to a close where everyone felt like they were getting what they needed. And I didn't, and I also wanted to make certain that because we knew each other, I didn't want to underestimate the importance of what a closing would look like. Even though I kind of did. And like I said, luckily, one of the members kind of brought me back, like, hey, what about this? So I'll get back to that. Um, Two, group dynamics, mutual aid, here and now. Um, so the two processes were here and now and mutual aid. So mutual aid, well, that simply sprouted from the fact that there was there was always content. So because there was always content, it kind of it awakened our intuitive strengths. So there was constant sharing and constant give and take. So I might have put something, left a voice memo about something that I may have experienced in my commute that morning and how that made me feel. And then it might have been like there was a 21-day meditation that was offered. Um, so, uh, yeah, that. And then also, like I said, just the constant support. There was one of the members who had downsized from her space and was moving. There was another member during the group who was ending a job and going into a whole new job. Her son had been sick. There was another member who actually didn't show up until closer to the end of our exchanges. And there was room for all of that. And I wanted to make sure that that was a space that we were co-creating. So in the here and now, I encouraged, there was a couple of days where I just didn't have it to post much. And I was able to encourage, um, the vulnerability and transparency that a lot of people tend to not offer up in a group because they think of social graces and appropriateness. And it's like, well, yes, we should be considerate of one another, but we also need to be sincere about where we actually are, because this exchange requires like our honest energy. And I could say to you, like, wishing you all well. Today has definitely been really heavy, and my words are not finding me. So I did want to just touch base, and leaving the floor open for you all to contribute in the way in which you see fit. And then that also opened the door to one of the members talking about her anxiety around when she would hear the chirps whenever I would post stuff or whenever there was an exchange, and it would make her feel anxious, like she needed to, like it was like a pressure to produce. So then I had to revisit that understanding of, no, there is definitely no pressure to produce. I do want there to be full participation from all of us, but it can be when you can. It doesn't have to be Tuesday at 2:30 that you need to have this in here. So I mean, I also made a suggestion of, you could also just mute it. You can mute the group, put the group on silent, so that you can still benefit from the content, but you don't have to be notified every single time there's an exchange. Because I know that feeling of, just of that. Like, you could be in the middle of doing something, and those chirps can just sometimes make you feel like, just a little. So that was a really good representation of, the here and now and kind of how to navigate that. How are the key addressing factors or aspects of diversity and inclusion, and how are they showing up in the group? So again, like I said, we were all primary parents, single mothers, different phases of creating our co-parenting experiences. All have dealt with separation on some level, whether it was new or it's been years of navigating and welcoming more blended family structures. One member works in a nonprofit sector in arts and education and is a hip hop artist, performer, training to be a drama therapist. One is a stay-at-home mom who works part-time. One is a dean of an elementary school, and then one is a grad student working admin in a college. And so yeah, and that encouraged, I had to think about scheduling, and that actually is what was the impetus for the group being more free flowing and open for people to contribute and to participate when they were able to, because I knew the time constraints. I knew some people nights were better, some people days were better, some people mornings were better, some people didn't get to it until days after the post. So I just did not want there to be any pressure, because I wanted to encourage full engagement when they were able to engage. It was a consistent, like, it was three of us, like hardcore, like every day, checking in with one another, even if it was just to say peace, how you doing, wishing you a good day. So, and then one of the members came in later, and she was always apologetic, and I explained to her, I said, listen, this is not a space. The window and the door is being held open for you for when you do come through. And, appreciating her willingness and wantingness, and expressing that to her of wanting to co-create and be in this experience with us. And she definitely contributed. She did like a slew of videos and a slew of content, because she hadn't been able to participate from the beginning. But she would always say, "Oh, I'm going to catch up," and I brought back the here and now as like, yes, by all means, go back and read the content at your leisure when you're able to. But I didn't want her to feel pressure. I said, why don't you just start at what we posted today and just look at that, see what you feel, and start from there, rather than feeling the pressure of what you feel like you've missed. Because really, at the end of the day, it's right on time, right? And understanding and accepting exactly where we are in that particular moment, and supporting that person from that place. So that. And then the way that I used EXA. So EXA, I just offered every kind of option possible: clay making, visual arts, make a video, dance, send a picture, post a song, a quote, a monologue. I wanted to let them know that they could use as many whatever they wanted to, because you have some people that had a great deal of experience in art making and others who did not. So I didn't want anybody to feel limited in what they could contribute. So I wanted to offer the options of they could do anything. They didn't, I mean, they might have posted a song, they might have sent affirmations, some might have sent pictures, some might have done a freestyle. Um, but the way that I communicated was through sending music, of course, visuals that would be guideposts for them in their day, like kind of setting the tone of the energy that I was sending to them, and that they could use as a visual when they were having a challenge. I also incorporated tarot. I would pull. And the tarot I actually used. That was actually the segue into um, the end of group. So I picked a tarot, like a card, the card a day reading, that and that card represented the energy and the flow of the group that we had co-created and that we wanted to send forward. And I think it was Mother of uh, Mother, I can't remember. Was it Mother of Wands, I believe, which is the picture is like a swan. Um, so I took a picture of the card, gave a brief overview of the meaning and how we could use that energy, like going forward, just offering up suggestions. So that was the beginning towards the end. And then I also shared a recipe for a white bath, like a spiritual bath, that's usually used in ancestral work, and it's a basic white bath, using distilled water, coconut milk, baking soda, Epsom salt, sea salt. Depending on what ritual you're doing, you would add different herbs and different essential oils to honor those particular deities, energies, goddesses, spirit energies, what have you. But this was just a basic white bath to kind of usher in a release of all they might want to let go of and to open the way for new creations and new beginnings. So that was something that I suggested and, invited them to gather the tools for that for us to do. Um, I gave a loose, like, I don't want to say like everyone do it by Thursday, but I did, say that I wanted that to be an ending, and then we could all kind of reflect on what that was like for us. Um, but then one of the members introduced, she said, well, Yesha, what about a toolkit? Just a space created where it's gathered, shared resources or gathered resources that we can use going forward. Whether it's about burnt offerings that we can use in order to clean our spaces, relieve our spaces of like undesirable energies and spirits, or whether it's like a really good book that we need to read, or the awareness of good food, good music, good people in our lives. So I kind of resented that at first, which was really interesting. Like, well, wait a minute, But then it was like, wait, that's not even my style. Like, I'm not here to try to control and rule over you all. This is about co-creation, and I want this group to represent who we all are. Our shared communication, our shared experiences. So that was interesting. So I was like, okay, cool. I was like, yeah, the toolkit. And I had also expressed why I didn't offer up the toolkit at first, because to me a toolkit is your own intuitive process. It's not something that I felt comfortable in telling you, like, get this incense and do this and do that. But I also understood the necessity and endings that my thinking might be like, well, I don't want to tell them what to do. But, she was letting me know that, hey, yeah, we do know each other. And yeah, we have this personal connection with one another independent of this. But in this space, this is completely brand new. And I'd like some guideposts on to keep this going, because the whole point is like, how do we take this short time that we had together and create a continuum, like continuing to inject that into our lives. So um, I was grateful and told her so, and shared that with the group, that I was grateful for her inviting and suggesting the toolkit. So it ended up being something that we use. And I think my facilitation style is more exploratory, like just kind of leaving it for people to kind of add, I'll definitely have no problem kind of laying out um, the foundation of things. Um, I guess like loose expectations. Um, but I really wanted this to be about our co-creation, what we all were bringing. I didn't need to be, the one who had all of the answers. Like, yes, no. I wanted to like, okay, you know what? This is what I experienced on the train today. This is how it made me feel. Um, you know, uh, Fear and how to use it as fuel, incorporating ritual and practice into our everyday. What does that look like? What does that feel like to you? What is self care? What does that look like? What does it feel like to you? And then just kind of creating a story, continued story. Um, Successes and challenges. I feel like the success was creating a consistent space of content that kept at least 75% of the members engaged throughout the group. I think that was definitely a success. Um, Creating a space that was freed up enough, but also had enough structure to accept and receive everyone exactly where they were. I think one of the challenges is running a group with all of the members, all of the members being people that you know personally, because you have to really chart your boundaries, where it ends. Because I might post something that morning and then I'm receiving a text later on about something that was in the group that they want to talk about one on one or something like that. And I understand when it's a group that it's members that you don't know, you want to be of support, but you also have to like leave certain things in the group to go home, and it might not be a good idea to have dinner with everybody every night, but definitely having an ending, a closing potluck or a closing dinner would be, something of, necessity. Yeah, so for me, that challenge was I felt like I had left everything in the group, like in the memos when I left the voice memos. So I didn't always have the space to hold more because I was already on to the next task because I was balancing that, whatever work I had to do, makeup, work, getting Issa ready for school, me for work, you know what I'm saying? So it was just like, okay, good. I posted that. That's done for the day. But then it was like a little bit of a continuum because of the personal relationships. It was like, yes, can you talk? Yes, so Saya has such and such going on, so it was that. Um, so yeah, I am at 22, 28. So I don't know if I'm gonna have to like pay $10 because I went over. I'm just joking. Um, but I hope that this was enriching for you all. And thank you because I don't want to go over too much. All right. See you all soon. Bye.